Hello folks and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk to you about the impact of social media on the body modification industry. So very recently I got into a little bit of a disagreement with another creator on TikTok who was making videos about using aspirin paste for their bridge piercings. And a lot of professional piercers were basically like, hey, this is a very unsafe practice. It's medically documented to cause chemical burns. And we see a lot of clients all the time come in with chemical burns. So please don't promote this to people online because this can cause some really serious, really dangerous harm. And this creator was like, well, I'm not promoting it. I have some disclaimers on my videos that say I'm not a professional piercer and try this at your own risk. But I'm going to make an in-depth how-to video about exactly how I make and use aspirin paste. And I'm going to tell a lot of people that it works really well for me and I like it. And I'm not going to blatantly mention the high risk of chemical burns, the documentation of chemical burns, and the fact that in using aspirin paste, you are basically creating a form of salicylic acid designed to burn those bumps off your skin. Now, I'm not going to name that creator or link back to that creator in this video because it has been brought to my attention that this creator has a history of being inappropriate with minors. And here on this page, we do not platform or give user attention to people who behave inappropriately with minors. We do not support that behavior. We do not think it is ever appropriate or okay. So please also do not name or link to that creator in the comments because again, we are not using this platform to give someone like that attention. But the interaction did bring up, I think, a very interesting discussion about the role of social media in body modification and our individual responsibility to the information that we're sharing online. And there tend to be two main sides of this disagreement. On one side, we have folks who are like, bodily autonomy is a big thing. You should be able to do whatever you want to your body. You should be able to talk about it on the internet if you want to. And if other people decide to do something that's dangerous or risky, that's on them. But you should be able to talk about it. On the other side, we have folks who are like, hey, what you post on the internet has a really big impact. And there are a lot of younger folks, more impressionable folks, people who just may not have the same access to education or research or things like that, who see the content you post. And if you're not posting any disclaimers, if you're not giving people information about the risks, people could end up really seriously hurt. So if we want to post about practices that are questionable, that are high risk, that are potentially dangerous, we should be doing this with thorough, in-depth disclaimers, with links to further evidence about the risks, and to make sure that we're giving people informed consent. And I kind of float somewhere in the middle, definitely a little bit more to the we as a community have a responsibility to keep our community safe side, but I wanted to come on here and kind of expand about it a little bit more. And to start, I believe firmly in bodily autonomy. I believe that you should be able to do whatever you want to your body in the safety and privacy of your own home. You know, it's your body to do with it. And many folks know that I have posted plenty of things about questionable or high risk things that I've done in relation to body modification. I talk all the time about my cheek piercings, which are incredibly high risk modification. I have tons of surface piercings that I've had in the past, which eventually migrate and reject. And I do and create so much content about play piercings, bloodletting rituals, hook pulls, body suspensions, all sorts of things. That's all the stuff that I post on the internet. For what it's worth, I do way more questionable, irresponsible, high risk, and downright dangerous shit with my body when it comes to body modifications in my own free time in the safety of my home. But that is the stuff that does not get posted on the internet. And that is because I am very aware that with a platform of my size and the place that I've positioned myself as a professional and as an educator, what I post will be looked at through a certain lens and it will reach a certain level of audience. And yes, I am an informed, consenting, educated adult doing these things in the safety of my own home or the space that I'm in with a bunch of other very informed, consenting, educated adults who know exactly what type of bad decisions we're making when we decide to get up to weird body and hook and blood shenanigans in someone's home or in the woods. I also know that if I post about that, even if I post with context and disclaimers, it's not necessarily always going to be received with that context or those disclaimers, or it's going to be viewed by a lot of people who don't have the same education and background as me, who may not have access to the same studies and resources that I do, and who just may see it go viral and see it be posted and think, oh, like that if this is going all over the place, like this must be a safe practice. So I personally choose very carefully what I do and don't post online, very aware of that impact. If people want to come talk to me privately about this stuff, I'm very open about it. There are forums and spaces online that are dedicated to this type of body modification, where I do post and share this stuff, where I know that it's being shared in a limited place with like-minded individuals who have a higher level of risk awareness and information about these behaviors that we're talking about. And I'm very open to talking about people privately, one-on-one, or in these more controlled and vetted spaces. But I opt not to talk about this stuff very publicly online because I understand the impact that this has. Now, of course, I am a professional piercer. I do this for a living, and I make educational content online. So I have a higher grade of responsibility, I feel like, when it comes to talking about this stuff than the average person who's kind of just like on their own personal body modification journey and wanting to talk about it. At the same time, I think even if you are that average person who's at home going on this journey, if you start gaining a really large following, if you know that your videos are going very viral, if you know that you are specifically posting them outside of like set body modification spaces, I would like to think that we should come together to try and keep the community safer. We should be honest about the risks of some of the stuff that we're talking about. We should be transparent about artists who are safe and unsafe, the real risks of some of these procedures. For the love of God, we should not be calling heavy modification work piercings. Like the amount of people I see come online and say, my new piercing that I got done and it's a coin slot. Or people referring to even tongue splits as a form of piercing and making the general public think that this is on the same level of body piercing, the same risk level, the same consent level. It's far more accurate to describe these procedures as illegal plastic surgery than it is body piercing, or at the bare minimum, refer to it as a heavy modification. And I feel like in this desire to want to share our own experiences and share our own journeys or go viral on the internet, we are doing so at the expense of the safety of people getting into this community. And anyone who's in this community knows that it can be hard to find good, honest information and resources about some of the risks of these things. Sometimes it's because the internet is just so flooded with bad and questionable advice about different things, but other times because what we're talking about is literally illegal. So it's very difficult to talk about it openly online. But when we aren't warning people, when we aren't being honest about this, or when we're choosing to post purely out of our own desire to share our journeys or go viral, I think we do the community a disservice, and I think it falls on us to keep this community safe. Again, body modification, tattoo, and piercing is largely underregulated, and even when we look at safety regulations in many other industries, it's not about actual safety, it's about money. It's about what makes the most money and who pays off the health department and who has the best lawyers to lobby for the best deals and the laws. I mean, come on, there's states where earlobes aren't considered a part of your body, so that earlobe piercings can be done with guns without having to follow the same safety requirements as body piercings do. That's why you can get your ears pierced in the mall at a kiosk with no running water, no sink to wash your hands in, and by people with no bloodborne pathogens training. Because, it's technically just a retail service. So we know that the law and the government are not going to protect us here. We protect us. And how we choose to create and share content online, the disclaimers and warnings that we choose to give, and the education that we choose to share is what protects us and protects our community and keeps members of our community safe. Now, a really big argument on the other side is that, there's individual responsibility in body modification. So if someone decides to try something because they saw it on a video or a post on the internet and it goes horribly wrong, that's on them. And you know what? I don't even fully disagree with that statement. I do think there needs to be more individual responsibility in this industry. I made a bunch of videos recently talking about how there's a lack of research and a lack of understanding being done by individuals before even just getting a body piercing, let alone some of the practices that we're talking about here. So I agree that there is a level of individual responsibility. But I would also agree that there's a level of community responsibility and that we can help people take individual responsibility by making information readily available so people can give informed consent. Which means if you know you're posting about something that is dangerous, that is high risk, that has any number of medical or scientific studies really backing up the risk of it. And if dozens of professionals are saying, hey, please be careful promoting this and talking about this, we all see people get permanently damaged from doing this. I just think maybe we could be more careful talking about that online. You know, we could give people honest disclaimers or things like that. Or if it's something we still really want to do, why do we have to post it on the internet? Like, again, I say this as someone who does questionable stuff with my body modifications, who makes decisions that would make your head spin personally for my body and my body modifications. Do I post them on the internet though? Do I advertise them and say, man, this worked for me, like it was fine? Do I blast it on my big platforms? No. And I guess maybe that's also because for me, body modification is a very personal journey for me within my body. I don't necessarily feel like the internet needs to know every single experience I have with body modification and with piercing and with tattooing. I don't feel the need to broadcast it or go viral about every single thing that I do. I'm doing a lot of these experiences for myself, for my relationship in my body, for my transition, for my journey. And that's between me and my body and the practitioners who are there helping me do what I want to do. That doesn't necessarily belong or need to belong to anyone who follows me online. Now, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with wanting to share your journey online or doing body modifications or things like that for views or for social media presence. But I think if you're opting to do that and your whole thing is creating content out of your body modifications, you should be held to a certain standard of responsibility. Just like anyone who is a professional piercer should be held to a certain standard of responsibility. Anyone who's making or selling jewelry to this industry needs to be held to a standard of responsibility. Anyone who's profiting off of this industry or off of other people's bodies and their decisions to get body modifications should be held to a higher standard of safety and responsibility. And I'd like to think as a community we can come together and say, we all do something that has some level of risk that the general population doesn't really think that highly of, and we're all on our own journey of trying to find a body that feels the most ours and is at home and do so safely. So let's as a community prioritize keeping other people in this community and new people coming into this community as safe as possible. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I'm very interested to hear what y'all think, and I'm very excited to see the comments on this video and folks who agree with me and also folks who disagree with me. So please let me know your thoughts down below. If I get enough good comments, I might even make a follow-up video responding to some because I think this is a topic that's really important and really relevant to the industry in 2024. And thanks for sitting down and listening to me chat as usual. Have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.